Yes. We had started by saying they were an accounting unit, and then we later said, no, what they are doing is more than managing our accounts, and now they are managing operations, actually. The issue of compliance, and I must bring this to bear, as you continue to grow, and you have multiple people giving you support for the work you do as an NGO, you realize that you need to respond to the emerging issues. I think as of today, we have about 20 different governmental agencies that we are responding to. National Housing Fund, National Social Insurance Trust Fund, NITDA, have HMO, all sorts of things, so that the organization can run effectively, and so we just make sure we have all of this. We've been around since 89, as was mentioned, and in 89, I was 31 years old. Nike was 26, actually, so we have grown, let me put it, with this organization. We were both then working at two different agencies. I was working for Excel Clinics. She was working at The Guardian as a journalist. So we were just thinking that the NGO Action Health will just be a platform for delivery of services to beneficiaries, especially the underserved. But again, you couldn't deliver services, you needed a team. And over time, it was Nikki that first left her job, even when there was no hope of any income, because the demand was so great. And then she was able to get Ashoka to support her. And then they were giving us some stipend. And then we started getting grants and responding, and at a stage, I think in the last 15 years or so, I had to leave practice for 20 years when AHI became so big and we needed to be on the ground and be responding also to invitations from within and outside the country. So, and then we had to also bring in more people who work with us. In 2008, due to the prompting of our board, especially one of our board members, Dr. Yemi Ogunbi, he had observed, and rightly so, that we were spending a lot of money on hotels for meetings and all of that. And our rent was going up. So he had started, like in 2001, drawing our attention to the need for Action Health to consider having our own accommodation, And, all you need to do is open up yourself. When an idea is planted, we started exploring it. And we were able to move into our own office. I think that was about 2006, where we still are, a purpose-built office that has a clinic, halls, meeting rooms, offices, and library. So we felt, well, we had arrived, but to our biggest surprise, one of our donors, the program officer from Ford, specifically Dr. Ahonsi, came around and he looked and he saw beside us an empty plot of land. And he said, whose land is this? And we said, honestly, we don't know. I mean, we thought we had done something great. And he said, look, if I were you guys, one of the things I'm going to do is to make sure that Action Health secures this land. And we said, why? And he said, look, if you don't secure this land, you cannot determine, therefore, what structure will be put here and what impact that will have on your work as an organization. And we said, correct. And so we, over time, were able to get the place, and then we succeeded in building up the place to have a guest house that we call the AHI Residence Limited. It is an 18-room facility. It's a limited liability company. It's a subsidiary. It has its own management. It is run. We keep a close eye on it. And one of the things that is remarkable is that the money to build was provided largely by 3 foundations. First was MacArthur Foundation, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, through a grant that we got for the effective institutions that they were given at that time. They allowed us to use $150,000 of it for brick and mortar. The Ford Foundation came and they matched that giving for us to operationalize the facility. And then the Packard Foundation, we were keeping their monies we were making from foreign exchange earnings and all in a separate account according to their funding guidelines. So we requested that they allow us use the money, and they said we could. So all of that, plus the fact that we had to sell our shares at that time, because we're also investing in shares, and all of that money made up what we used to set up the AHI Residence. So the AHI Residence is a fully funded subsidiary, and today it not only employs Nigerians, especially young Nigerians in the hospitality industry, but it also supports our work from time to time. So the next slide, please, next slide, so that to my colleagues who are practitioners, I am making a few assumptions, and I want to share those assumptions with you. I believe that all of us who are in this game, we are not just there because we are looking for jobs. We are there because this is what we want to do. So it is a lifetime commitment. And you can see when Action Health started, I was 31. Today, this year, I'm 64. Nike was 26. This year, she's 59. So it has literally taken over our lives, So this is very, very, very important. The other assumption is that we are committed to lifelong learning. And this is very important. Look, what we were doing in 1989, they cannot work in 2022. And the reason is that context has changed and scope has expanded. So we are also students. We are learning. Even when people say to us that, oh, you've been there for the long time, you are experts, we say no. There is a joint expertise when we agree to learn. And the only way we do that learning effectively is to belong to community of practice. In this field, there are several communities of practice. And let me take the SRH field. If you go to what they call CSE, Comprehensive Sexuality Education, there's a community of practice. When you go to youth-friendly health services, there's a community of practice. So anything you are doing, if you cannot be a lone ranger I'm the only one who knows, and I can only listen to myself, and it's only my voice. No, 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 no. You have to join the community of practice to keep abreast and to continue to have the opportunities like this, webinars. Sometimes you just get an alert about a newsletter that is being released by another organization, and you go through it, and it also brings you new perspectives, some things that you might not have considered. So it is important. The other thing is that we need to understand our environment. Things are moving fast, things are changing. Look, conflict in the northeast of Nigeria caused us to realize that adolescent sexual and reproductive health needs of those of them in conflict situations is not the same as those of them in school in a non-conflict environment. And I'm going to give you a small example. A 15-year-old girl may have access easily to menstrual hygiene support services like pads, water, water and sanitation facilities. But a 15-year-old girl, adolescent girl, in a conflict situation has no, you cannot take it for granted that she has that support. So part of the things we are doing now in the ASRH work we are doing in the Northeast involves us paying more attention to menstrual hygiene and to be able to support the adolescent girl in that space to be able to have her dignity intact while she's having menstruation. After all, menstruation is not a disease, it's a natural phenomenon that she must experience. But because she is now in a conflict zone, you see, that becomes a big challenge for her. Then the issues that are important to government, because at the end of the day, in a democratic setting, the non-governmental organization is not setting a different agenda. We are contributing to national development agenda. We may therefore be seen as partners by our colleagues in government, and then we can also now say, look, you guys are duty bearers. Even though we are supporting this national agenda, we think you also must listen to the Nigerians whom we all have agreed to serve together. So, and if there are innovations or new things that are coming on, we can then bring this to their attention so that they can also begin to modify, adjust, accommodate, you know. And this is very important, especially for those of us who have worked in the HIV and AIDS field. You will know that when we started the HIV and AIDS response in Nigeria, our response was not as inclusive. But over time, we recognize that they are injection drug users, so there are other people whose lifestyles are not necessarily agreeable with us. People who choose to have sex with members of the same sex, who express intimacy. And therefore, if we are not addressing their issues, our idea of delivering on public health for the public good may be compromised. So these are some of the things that we do. So in terms of accountability, accountability is all-encompassing. Everybody. Who is Action Health accountable to? We are accountable to everybody. We are accountable to ourselves as an organization. We are accountable to all the agencies we work with of government. we are about to sign a new MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with the government of Borno State. And in that MOU, there are things we said we will do. There are things government said they will do. So government is accountable to us. We are also accountable to them. And there are things we said we will do in specific communities. And in those communities, we are accountable to the governance mechanism of the communities, community leaders, and then the beneficiaries. If we say that we will do 4 meetings with the beneficiaries to receive feedback on how program implementation is going and what they want us to modify, we don't only do it, we must show evidence that we have done it. And this is very important for us as Action Health Incorporated. And then our community of practice. Because you see, we are not a standalone. We also go to our community of practice to say, this is what we are about to do. And they ask us from time to time, can you present your programs to date? The last time the Technical Working Group on Adolescent and Youth Health and Development in Lagos State met, they demanded Action Health to do a presentation of our work in Lagos State. They don't want to know what we are doing elsewhere. They want to know what are you doing in Lagos and how are you contributing to reducing teenage pregnancy, empowering young people and all of that. So we were able to respond to that through that presentation. So as an organization, what does this mean for us? It means that people are the heart of our operations. If you go to government, you are talking of people. If you go to donors, you are talking of people. If you go to beneficiaries and the communities, you are talking of people. If you talk of other stakeholders, you are talking of people. If you talk of community of practice, you are talking of people. If you talk of our operations itself, Action Health is not run by robots. It is run by people. And therefore, because people are the heart of our operations, we have to deal with several issues. And I've tried to categorize them as follows. Expectations. Do we understand the expectations of all our stakeholders? Do they understand our expectations? Because we cannot sustain our relationships and our delivery to them if we don't know what we expect of each other. So we need to deal with expectations. And I'm encouraging all NGO practitioners. Look, we are in an era where you must share communication. Do not think that you can hide what you want to do. No. And then you'll be surprising people. No, 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 no. If you are meant to train 800 girls on life-saving skills or economic enhancing skills, let them know that you plan to train 800. Do you know their age ranges? Every information that will enable you to deliver, put it out. Because you may not be the one who will be looking for the 800 girls. It may be your partner CBO or NGO you are working with in the state. It may be the government that you are supporting. And then once they know the criteria and the location and everything, they identify you girls. You and the government, you sit together to say, let's go through, did we meet our criteria? If you did not meet it, please don't cover anybody. Do you know why? Over time, it will show. And therefore, you need to deal with expectations. It's always very important. And when expectations are not clear, we start with the problem of not being sustainable. Because if you felt, for instance, that, okay, since this is on the government work plan, we will catalyze it to this extent, and then government will take over. But if you don't tell them, they say, these are AHI people, they won't see them as their responsibility. Perhaps year one, they did not budget for that activity you supported. You must therefore work with them to budget for it for year two, going forward and subsequently. So for me, it is always important that we address expectations. Delivery. This is key for sustainability. This is not anyhow delivery. I always tell people, it is important that you put your best foot forward as an NGO. If you want to print, or if you want to produce a merchandise, say a t-shirt, a face cap, of course you will go to the market. You have your procurement policy, and you have your procurement modalities. They will bring many samples to you. You don't have to go for the cheapest. If the cheapest does not meet your minimum standard, you don't have to. Yes, there will be margin. So what? Look at that which you produce it. Those you give will be willing to use. Some, and I'm just using merchandise. If we are to retrofit a health facility, let it be that on the day of commissioning, the community that has the facility will appreciate what you have done. The donor that gave you the money will be represented. The donor will come and say, wow, this is, anyway, Action Health, we didn't expect anything less from you. The government will come and say, in fact, this is a fantastic facility. And I can tell you something. We retrofitted a safe empowerment center for girls in Adamawa State, in a community called funding came from the ministry. We want, when you finish, it can be some facility we can name after our First Lady. And we want our plan declare this facility open. So they had raised the bar. And when we looked at the resources at our disposal, and of course, when you're in these meetings, your donor is also there. UNFPA asked us clearly, AHI, can you deliver what the Ministry of Women Affairs, the standard they were requesting? We said we will, and that this is the hallmark of the way we work. By the time we delivered, in fact, when the First Lady came to commission the facility, she renamed the facility. She said, yes, it is named after me, but I call this a Women and Girls Happiness Center, because what I have seen in this center matches in terms of finishing, in terms of all that we put there. That is as if I am in the government lodge in Yola. And I therefore believe that when women and girls come here and everything is working the way I have seen it, it will become a happiness center. Component, and there are challenges, and they will live here sorted out on that challenge. He has a clinic, he has a legal office, but he also has an economic empowerment place, and that facility is running well. I put welfare. Someone said, observe that we've been around since '89 and we are still here. Yes. And I'm saying this because it takes your team to deliver for you as an institution. So welfare of our team members are very important. When you work with Action Health, we have put in place policies that we are committed to. Everybody in Action Health has access to 24/7 healthcare delivery service through their various HMOs. And it's very important. We have, from last year, started a policy of, we used to give before now, time off for people to go to school, improve on themselves. Oh, you came in with a first degree, you want to do a master's, you want to do a professional exam, we'll agree with you, we'll work out the time you can go and do all of those. But from last year, we said, no, we can do better. When you gain admission and you have gone to school, which means you have paid and you have started receiving lectures, Action Health will give you a grant, which is and it's an annual grant, subject to the duration of your course and the evidence of the fact that you are attending school. So because if you are doing a master's and it's a 24 months master's and you are going to take exams 4 times, kindly show us evidence that you wrote the exam and you passed, because if we don't see it, it means you intended to attend, but you are no longer in school, So we try to respond. We encourage, we don't joke with staff loans, for instance. In fact, our policy is that if a staff needs loan that the staff is entitled to, we must provide that money within 24 hours, So we prioritize our staff a lot, and we try to be there for our staff should, in case they go through grief and all such unexpected situations, so that is very important. So issues of staff welfare, and it happens to all our staff, whether you are in Lagos, in Maiduguri, in Yobe, in Yola, or Sokoto, or Guzo, it grows. And I can share one other thing we did. Besides the staff evaluation and increases and promotions that we give and all of that and recognition, when you go out of your way to do something for the good of the organization, we not only reward you with a commendation, we also give you a token to say, look, thank you for what you have done. To be able to encourage and motivate others to be able to do same. And we keep trying to ask ourselves, what is it that motivates our team? And at appraisal, that question is always asked. What is it that you want the system to do, the organization to do for you to be able to give us your utmost best when you are here? For many NGOs, I know sometimes we are afraid, if we train this person, you build your capacity. Maybe Palladium will coach you, maybe UNICEF will coach you, maybe UNFPA will coach you, maybe you go and work for USAID and all the rest. And we say to ourselves, listen, if the same set of people we had in 1989 and the same set of people working here, this organization will have died. So the only way is we must be a stream. If we cannot be a river, if we cannot be a sea or ocean, let people come in, let them learn, let them go to higher heights. There is no way they will tell their story without mentioning their time with us. And it is in their, when they are here that they are raw, and then we begin to refine them and prepare them for greater things. Other people have left us to start their own NGOs. And even yesterday, an NGO had a training here. They paid us for the use of our hall. They took some rooms in the guest house, and at least one of the founders used to be staff of A about 12 years ago. And we are very happy to have them. We are not in competition, we complement each other. Now, compliance. Compliance is a big basket, and it comprises everything about an organization living up to its values. Even though we tend to see compliance from purely government perspective, for all of us, the Corporate Affairs Commission expects us as NGOs to do our annual returns as if you are registered as incorporated trustees. And that is either done by your lawyer or if you have a firm of chartered accountants. For that to happen, you need to also have an audited account. So let me tell you the story of AHI. Our accounting manual and audit was prepared by our auditing firm, Ernst & Young. So we are audited by Ernst & Young. Now we receive money from Nigerian Humanitarian Fund. Their auditors are Pricewaterhouse. So we are audited by Pricewaterhouse. UNFPA, we receive their money. They also have their own auditors. They send us their auditors. They themselves also come and do what they call spot check. NHF comes and do spot check. They will send people to the locations where we are working to work with all beneficiaries. UNFPA does the same. So as many people who give us money, as many of them they will respond to their audit queries and audit requirements. So in terms of audit, sometimes I always tell people we are over-audited, but it is good because it is in those exercises that become our mirror that says, oh, you have done well in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas. These are the other areas where you need to improve. We notice that you have policy for drinking water, policy for eating food, policy for coming to the office, but you don't have a policy for monitoring the time people spend on their work. Then take note. Make sure that this policy is available by the next time we come. And then we then go and do our research to find out what does that policy entail. Also, they are the ones who make us realize that we need to continue to update our policy compliance with government. So now I can say that as at 2022, AHI is fully compliant to all the things we know by 2021. When we are audited in 2022 now, we will know whether we need to update, you know, and all these policies are not known to UMS yet, Adenike yet. They are known to everybody, you know, and I say it very boldly and with humility that all of us who are NGO practitioners must not hoard information. I tell people all the time, for me to travel to Maiduguri, my program officer will generate the request, for instance, that, sir, you need to be in Maiduguri because the signing of the MOU with the commissioner is a high-level advocacy work, and you will use that to strengthen our program. Now, upon that notification, and it's on the work plan, I will sign onto it to endorse it. That will go through admin to finance. Because finance has to generate my trip budget. My trip budget will not be generated by me. The same rules that the program that hold the program officer in terms of retirement hold me. So, question is, and they will ask, do you want to go and buy your ticket or you want us to buy? I say, give me my ticket. I don't want to buy. Then they will buy. They will advise me, this is your ticket. You leave tomorrow, your flight is 8 a.m. by whatever airline. Airport boarding counter closes 15 minutes before my flight. So I will get there. They will give me a DSA that is in line with the institutional policy and the donor policy. Whether I take Uber, whether I drive myself to the airport, whether it's a friend that drops me, it's not their business. I get there. I bought the flight. I arrived in Maiduguri. My reservation has been made. Sometimes they have even paid. All they do is they give me the balance that I'm meant to use to eat my meals. Because they know I don't eat 3 meals. Because I am trying to watch my height. So I try to, so all those things, I discipline myself, and it's in the mind. Subject yourself, because compliance starts with me. It doesn't start with them. So when they see that, whoever it is complying, they themselves have no option. They will comply. And so this is shared responsibility. I involve them, they involve me. We involve ourselves. We jointly take decisions. We do all these things so that the institution can be healthy and we speak with one voice. So as we comply to the external, we start by complying to the internal. And therefore we will watch each other's back. Technology. I will tell you, I'm not very fast with technology, but that does not disturb AHI. So we're on the cloud. Everybody in AHI has a laptop. You can work from home. Thank God when COVID came. Sometimes people take for several reasons. If it is convenient for them to work from home, we allow them. The only thing is you must deliver. And remember, because we work across the country, my program officer might have to go to Osun. Sometimes they have to go to Akwa Ibom. Sometimes they have to go to Bayelsa. Sometimes they have to go everywhere to work. Why must I insist that you must come to the office from 8 a.m. to 5 and then close and then no? We try to be as accommodating as we can. For those of you who've been to our facility in Lagos, before Nigeria signed the Disability Act, when we were putting up AHI, we made sure it was wheelchair friendly. We worked with Cosmos Okoli, a man who disability, I can't remember his organization now, but he has been wheelchair bound. He worked with our architects and the builders to ensure that the ramp was actually a ramp, and we have a toilet, that is disability friendly. These are things, and we don't make noise about it. So when our government colleagues come and we are taking them around, they say, wow, AHI, you guys, you have raised the bar. I'm just talking so that we will know. So in terms of technology, everything we can use technology to do, we do. And the one we need to be manual, we are manual. Remember that there is no technology that will operate without human beings, one way or the other. So this is the way we operate. I don't know whether we have some questions in the question box that I need to address, because I left some time for questions and observations, even though, okay, I think it has been said that that will be facilitated later. So maybe I should jump that slide. So let me begin to wrap up using the 2 slides on nuggets, or 3 slides on nuggets to speak. So what are the values that drive your organization? Don't follow trend if the trend is not rooted in your values. I think it speaks for itself. The experience we had, there was a time, and there's still money there now. Everybody was started doing election, human rights, and the rest. And because money had dwindled in SRHR, we refused to leave. We stayed. We were invited. We declined. It's not every money you take. Let them know that I'm here because I believe in something. I don't come to work. I am living a dream. I'm living a life. So for colleagues, this is not work, it's about life. For me, it's a dream. I'm not doing NGO work because I didn't succeed as a medical doctor. I'm doing NGO work because this is where I find fulfillment. Even as I'm doing AHI work, I have been offered jobs. Nick here has been offered jobs, some of them too juicy. But we will ask ourselves, after 3 years of that position, what next? Are you there for the short term or for the long haul? If you are there for the short term, it's okay. It's just that you will not enjoy it. When you are there for the long haul, imagine when you walk into a space and somebody you don't remember, you don't even know, comes to you and says, are you not so person? You said, yes. I've been looking at you, sir. You won't remember. In 1998, when you came to this meeting, you said this. I held on to it. That is what gave me my pathway. Are you the expert? What I know today may not work tomorrow. I'm teachable. So let's be teachable. Are you the boss? You know, some of us will carry titles. Hey, I am. In fact, when you start NGO that has no office, has nothing, and you use the name president, this. It's okay. What are you presiding over? What is the budget of your NGO? Actually, sir, we don't have grant. We don't have budget. I say, hey, you don't pay salary? No. So you need to be helped. How adaptable am I? Am I rigid? Trends, times are changing. Am I adapting to this time? Are you a stand-alone, play alone, or are you a team player? I always tell my colleagues in the office, I want you to shine. The purpose of my revising your letter or your memo or your presentation is so that you can shine. Dr. Eshet have shined enough. I started shining even before I got to this stage. I am not in competition with anybody. Action Health is not competing. Each time I meet a man like Professor Ladipo, and we are talking, I say, okay, we are just like a small department in half. The only thing is that is all we do. You do more. So if you have a bigger headache, it's a choice you made. This is the headache I choose to have. I don't want to have all the headache. Do you accept feedback? Do you think it's bad belly talk? We will accept feedback. If you come to AHI, you will see the footprints of young people in our workforce. Every year, we bring in 6 adolescents who have just finished secondary school, who are on their way to university, who are charting their life course to work with us for 1 year through a competitive means. I don't sit on interview panels in AHI. I have never sat and I will never sit. Let everybody be recruited. They are Nigerians. I can work with them. If they are not good and you have made the mistake to employ them, we'll patch them up. We are panel beaters here. And then after 1 year, after their time, if they don't meet up, they will leave. So we give as many people a chance. Please, no one knows it all. And strong leaders, good leaders, effective leaders seek support. Only those who are weak say, I don't need help. I am not always right. I'm always open to ideas. AHI is open to ideas. Yesterday, SWAG was with us, and we gave attention to the young lady from SWAG who spoke with us for 30 minutes. We picked a few things. They also picked a few things from us. So at the end of the day, sustainability is not an outcome. Sustainability must be mainstreamed from the beginning. If you want to be sustainable, it means you want your organization to be alive. What are you doing to ensure that the organization is alive from inception? When we started AHI, we did not start because we were looking for salary. We just felt we were volunteers. But when the pool became too big and we couldn't do our primary work, that was when we had to join the workforce. And then at that time, the system had the resources to pay us. And in the last, how many years, I don't think we have had, Nikki and I have had any salary increase in the last 12 to 15 years. And the reason, of course, is obvious. Let this be our legacy, so that when the owner of life says time up, we hope that this organization can outlive us. That is our dream. That is our desire. There are many things I have not said, but I hope the question and answer sessions will enable me to say it. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Apologies for taking so much time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Echet. What can we say? We can, when Oga has taken so much time, you cannot accuse Oga now. You just have to abide. Okay, so right now, my apologies. We only have about 12 minutes for the Q&A session. So Paul Nwako first. Please, I'm going to ask you to unmute now so you can go ahead and ask your question very quickly.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Very quickly, let me express my appreciation to Custos and Scale and Dr. Esther and AHI. Please, my question is very, very simple. I would, in your concluding remarks, how would you look at upcoming NGOs, especially in my own region, Southeast? I'm sure you have a work here and maybe collaborations here, but we have seen a lot come up. The turnover is so much and you don't see sustainability. So, because I also talk with NGOs, so I could take something away from here. Maybe there are peculiarities from your experience. Thank you for the experience you have shared.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Maybe
let's have a second question.
Yes, you can go ahead with that. I don't see Johnny's hand anymore, but I'll go to the chat box.
Okay. I said sustainability must be mainstreamed, and you must look at your context. I know that there are a few NGOs in the Southeast that are doing well. Prawa is in the Southeast. Uju Agomo is in Owerri, I think. There are 2 or 3 others in Owerri that we have worked with in the past. You see, what is sustainability in Lagos does not necessarily become what is sustainable in your place. And I'm going to give one simple example. We want to work in Taraba with T.Y. Danjuma Foundation. And when we were developing our budget, every thought was what it cost in Lagos. But when we got there, we realized that cost was far, far lower. So what did we do? Working with the Ministry of Education at that time, the commissioner, we increased the number of people we trained for the state, because sustainability does not necessarily mean your ability to get money the way you are used to getting it. When you do good work, your good work attracts more good work, opportunities for good work. That enables you to be sustainable. When you receive in-kind support, take for instance, somebody sent me a request from Kaduna that there is a land, if HI was interested. I said, no, we are not interested. Not because it doesn't make sense, but because we are not expanding in that direction. You understand? You don't take on everything. That in itself enables you to concentrate on what you want to do. And you can do a fee for service for your NGO. For instance, you are good at training people. You can market your training. Let people come. You get money, but they must get value because they are paying. So sustainability, there's a whole lot of things, and we can have a conversation outside this meeting because of time. You understand? Because we all must begin to open our minds. The way we do good work, we hold on to our values. We don't take on more than we can deliver. We don't take on what we don't have capacity to do. You know, that in itself gives you an edge. Because let me tell you, in this field, we all know ourselves. People will know you by your character. Do you have integrity? We are not one of those NGOs that we say DSA for your staff. You go and take it, or you tell your staff to read. If they have that policy, that's okay. I don't spread it, but that's not the way we are, because everything is in our mind. This sustainability of NGOs is not tied to the Nigerian economy. It's tied to the integrity of the founders and the managers of that NGO to deliver on what they will do. And the internet now has helped. Do you know that you can put your work globally and you can put a cost? And if people know that if I support you with $10, which in Nigeria today is 5,000 something, maybe 5,000 naira, this is what will happen to that one young girl in that small community. You know, because sustainability and accountability, they are together. But if I am not accountable, I think that I will be sustainable. I'm joking. You understand? I'm joking. So let's leave it at that. Let's talk after. They can share my email or contacts with everybody, but we can talk. Or we can even set up another meeting to look at some of the things. But you have to look at yourself critically and be willing to change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. There's another question. Now we're going into the chat box. We have several questions, but again, because of our time, we can only take a few. Somebody is asking, Kabiru Abbas is asking, what technical and institutional sustainability approaches have you put in place? What policies and grant mechanisms did you have to attract donors to you?
No, over time, we don't take grants that don't have support for institutional development. We walk away from such grants. And the reason is very simple. The man at the gate is not on the grant. he or she needs to be paid. Janitorial services. I mean, I cannot do work that I'll be scratching my head to live. I don't want to survive. I'm living. I'm not a consultant. This is an institution. In fact, to be honest, I don't take individual consultancies as a person. That I'm working in AHI. If you approach me, I tell you, give it to AHI. Because I won't write the paper alone. Other people will join me. You understand? So I need light. Somebody has to pay for it. The cleaners, people providing janitorial services must clean. They need to be paid. So we start, and I think the NGO community, we need to come together. If we are formidable, we can also conscientize those who are practicing those kind of practices that are not healthy for organizations. But many of us, we think that, oh, if I take a $25,000 grant, it cannot pay your rent if you're at the level that we are. We use, if I look at our office space, wow, it's amazing. You can't. So somebody has to pay. Look, in my finance team, I have four persons. Two of them are qualified chartered accountants with masters. And the other two are working to get their ICANN. So how do I pay them? So I have to pay percentage of their time from this grant, from that grant, from that grant. And then the monies that we have made as an institution, we've invested. I told you we sold shares. We have real estate, we have land. We've not been able to build all of them, but we have them. So it's not everything we do, we pay hotel, we pay ourselves. So if I need a hotel for training, I'll give it to the AHI residents. They have hall. I will structure my work in such a way that I will train 50 people at a time, 25 people at a time, so that that thing can, you understand what I'm saying? You know, you have to think. There is no box. Let's keep thinking. But behind the thinking, let integrity be there. You know, and then ask. That is why some of us have been ahead of you. Ask us. Don't stay and think that you have all the answers. Ask us. We are your lifeline. But you see, when you ignore us and you make mistakes, some of these mistakes, we have made them in the past. And from the lessons we learned, we say, no, we are not going that way. And we can easily tell you, their new entrants, that way is very thorny. Why not follow this pathway and do well? Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Shola Ajibana, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Eshiet. That was well delivered. Thank you very much. We always appreciate you, and we appreciate your coming. My own takeaway from this is that the people are at the heart of the organization. I know that in management they say that the human resource is the most valuable asset of the organization, and you have proven that in your organization by making the people at the center. You see, when we do all these appraisals and all that, my question is, so what? We need to appreciate the people so that they also put in their best. And if we go out of our way to appreciate those who go the extra length to do things for the organization, I think it will encourage them more and even encourage other people to do more. And that is how organizations can be sustainable. You know, when we talk of people putting in their best, in those days in management, we used to talk about total quality management and all that. Who is your customer? You put in your best to satisfy your customers. You talk about the stakeholders, the people that you are accountable to and all that. You need to deliver quality service to them. Who does this? It is the people. So I think it's one big takeaway for me for that. So thank you very much, Dr. Eshiet. I want to tell our participants that this is the seventh in the series of the webinars that we'll be having. The seventh in the series, we'll be having another one next month. Mr. Olabi will tell us more about that. We've had one of the first ones we had was about the civil society organizations and taxation, filing, exemptions, and penalties. So we felt that organizations need to know about the tax implications, for running civil society organizations. We also had a webinar that spoke about CAMA, Company and Allied Matters Act, and the implication for civil society organizations. We had also another one, managing and sustaining an NGO, which we had the founder of LAPO come to speak with us. We have key issues responding to EU requests for proposals and concept notes, and series of these. And so over the period, we've had attendance and people have written to us, appreciating this. And we are also using this opportunity now to appeal to participants. If you have areas that you want to know more about, please write to us. We are very open to receiving your suggestions and feedbacks. Please write to us. You feel that the areas that we need to speak to, areas that we need to speak more to, please let us know. We'll be very happy to hear from you. And if there are things that you notice that we can do better, or things that you feel we could do more to improve what we are already doing, please feel free to let us know. We thank you for being part of this program today. We look forward to seeing you again. I hand over to my colleague, Timi Owolabi, to tell us the next steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. And just to add to what you have said, I think we also need those who have been attending to tell us some of the outcomes of this training. What have you been able to do with some of these things which you have done, with some of the things you have learned in the past? What changes have taken place in your organizations or in the way you do things? I think if we can also have that, that will be very useful for us. And that will also be a kind of motivation for us in terms of, addressing more of the needs of the organization. So like Shola said, what are those things that you've been able to run away with? What are those things you've been able to take from the training and run with in your organizations in terms of the way you do things? Like when we talked about engaging the board, which was the last training. So how do you think you can engage your board more, given some of those things you have learned from the webinar? So we'll look forward to receiving this kind of feedback, because that will be useful for us. It will be useful for the funders to know that we are contributing to the to knowledge and skills, and particularly like Dr. Eshet has said, the community of practice. And the community of practice here is how do we develop our organizations? How do we make them better? How do we move from where we are to where we need to be in terms of those things, in our organizations? From this training, we've been able to learn about the issue of sustainability and accountability going together. Some of us think that they are separate, but no, from what Dr. Uwem has said. Next month, I think we'll be having another notable personality, somebody who has been the former chief executive officer of the Nigerian Business Coalition Against AIDS, somebody who until recently was the deputy chief of party of the National Urban Reproductive Health Initiative, that is called NORI, Mr. Olushino Olulano, who will be taking us through the topic that says in terms of developing communication and media strategies for not-for-profit organizations. The era in which we are now is like Dr. Ume made allusions to that. If you look at the way they started, although they didn't have any policy, but the mere fact that they were able to put together, they had a press mileage in terms of covering the activities which they did. The donor was so much impressed. So, but now that these issues are becoming more germane in the way we project our organizations, how do we develop communication and media strategy for our organizations? Some people may think, it costs a lot of money. At times, it doesn't really cost a lot of money, So Mr. Olushino Olulano, who is a communication expert, will be talking to us more on that and that will be in March. So specifically, it's going to be on March 29th, 2022. So thank you so much. We look forward to having you there. Hand over back to Shola.
Okay, sir, there are a couple more in the chat box. There was one in particular regarding staff who who want to leave or who want increased remuneration. How do you manage that, particularly if the NGO is struggling? You know, how do you manage that? And then there was also a question related to the fact that both Dr. Eshet and his wife are on the board. Is there a conflict of interest? Do they get paid salaries? Yeah, so those were some of the questions that were in the chat box. Over.
Okay, let me start with the second question. Are we on the board? Yes. Do we work here? Yes. Do we get paid? Yes. What is it? But there's no big deal about all of those things. The important thing is that you are paid, that you are, whatever you are doing, you are transparent. There is reporting, I've told you, everybody, all the donors we work with, federal government, everybody knows. So it's not new. It's if you don't, or if you want to be smarter by half, then you will not be honest to yourself. So there is no donor we have worked with that doesn't acknowledge that. In fact, I could remember we were both invited by UNFPA to a meeting in Istanbul using different streams. And this is real life. And we got to Istanbul, you know, they will pay your DSC, they will pay her own, they paid my own. So I had a room, and they insisted that the arrangement they had with the hotel was that each of us must take a room. So I asked them, unless you can give me a room that has a connecting door, otherwise give me a suite. Then both of us will pay for the suite and take it. And the management of the hotel and the UNFPA people said, look, when we were inviting you individually, we didn't even know, even when the final list we were compiling them, it did not occur to us that there could be any relationship. Now that we have realized, we do not have, in fact, the hotel said we don't have a suite. First, we don't have two rooms with a connecting door, and we don't have a suite for you because, you know, depending on the concept of the hotel, and that we are not averse to both of you using one room. That we did not want, we were not trying to share because we wanted to save one. No, we just wanted to have the company of each other at that meeting. And the fact that when you start, why do you start with staff? People start with volunteers. We ourselves were volunteers. You know, you don't start a thing and begin to accumulate cost. You start a thing in a way that it will grow. Then as it grows, you begin to see the way growth is taking place, and then what additional cost can take. And then you begin to bring staff in, you understand? So if you started wrongly, if you are top heavy, then you need to shed. And the other thing is, and I keep saying it, once integrity is there, the people working with you will know whether there is money or not. And maybe you must look at your human resource practice. You may need to give people contractual employment. If you have a grant for 6 months and say, well, you know, we only have this money for 6 months, so we will employ you for these 6 months only, renewable subject to availability of funds. English is very precise, so So we should not be ambiguous. So I hope I've answered the two questions.
Thank you, sir. One last question. Somebody is asking, can you provide a list of the policies, because you kept referring to compliance and the policies that you have in place. Can you mention off the top of your head some of those policies?
There are many, starting from your staff policies. I don't know how many policies you have. I don't know where this organization is and what they are doing and how large they are. But the bigger you are, the more policies you need to have. For instance, if you are more than, how many people, HMO, the law says that if you have up to 9 people, labor laws are also there. So there are many things that inform policy development. But I can share a list if I know the person of all the policies I have, not their content, a list. Now I can send it to Custos. Custos can share to every party. But it just depends, because you are not, if the organization is not yet at that level, you don't need it. For instance, if you don't collect data from people, because needs that, because to even do theirs, you need, they even have a set of consultants that will help you develop, do your annual assessment on their behalf. And these things, they cost money, they don't come cheap. So it cost us almost 2 million to pay for NITSDA last year. So I'm just saying, because we had to do all the registration and all of that. So that was why we had to pay so much. But now we need their consultants to come every year and look at our processes. I hope those of us receiving, especially foreign grants, we are doing the school move with EFCC, because that's also very important. You need to do that training annually, and they need to go through your processes annually. So it's a lot, but I will share them with Custos.
Okay, thank you, sir. There's still a hand up in Alegu.
Okay, thank you very much. It's not a question, but it's just to contribute to Timmy's questions that he said he would like us to share experience. I think participating in this series has really helped me improve my capacity and also organization's capacity, because from the feedback I've been using from this series is a step down to at the organizational level, and even within the CISA in Benue State, we will try to share the series of the training with them so that they can all join, because when we did the capacity assessment of members, and we discovered that most of these capacity gaps, organizational gaps, are something that our members are looking for. And I thank God, even within this today's series, a number of them are also part of this. So I want to appreciate Skill. Even the last 2 weeks, we had the meeting at my own organizational level where we had a board meeting. And the feedback from this, some of them listening to the series, and the board members are now beginning to see reasons why they can go beyond just not looking at NGO as a profit making, but something they should contribute to sustain. Because a lot of us see it like, okay, because I have somebody, we are looking for members because of interest. But at the end of the day, when projects or activities come into implementation, you discover that interest will begin to change. So this series has really helped us, and we look forward to more, and also sharing maybe in detail with Scale going forward. Thank you very much. And it's an opportunity meeting with Dr. SCS, because I've participated in some of their trainings, and their materials have been a source document in my office for adolescents. God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Fumi Akinyele, please.
Okay, thank you very much. This was really great. Dr. Essien, I'm actually the one who asked the question about policies. I run a legacy. Okay. I run a legacy NGO. My dad started it in 1989, but he died suddenly in 2014, and that's when I came on board. And it's been a journey. It's been a really challenging journey. However, thank God we're still standing. And that's one of the reasons I was really interested in this webinar, because obviously you have gotten to a level that we are trying to get to. And so that's one of the reasons I asked about policies, of course, because we've been learning as we're going along. But one of the other questions that I had asked previously is what I'm learning, or have learned, that it's a conflict of interest for the founder or anybody who is the staff of the organization to be on the board of trustees. So how is it that you're able to navigate that? Because, you know, you're not supposed to get remuneration as a member of the board, but if you're staff, if you're an ED, then you get remuneration. And then I'm also going to put it out here because I have a lot more questions, but we don't have time. I have actually sent an email to your organization requesting that we're able to get a learning visit. So I can, you know, since you've offered, I'm really happy to take you up on that, to come to your office and have a learning visit. But the main question is, how are you able to be on the board and also you were able to get remuneration along the way? Thank you.
Okay, the learning visit is welcome. And these are issues that you will come to understand as you go along. I don't know how you operate in your space, but the way we operate, we also have a good legal team. So you see, we are working with them to give us interpretation and understanding of the law and the requirements of the law, because the law also recognizes that anytime you provide service has to be paid for, you know, and this is a service. And being on the board truly does not conflict with, do I say conflict or issues around arbitration between board members and staff and all of that. You know, in organizational development, it depends on where you are at. For instance, when we started, we had a primary board for many years. And in the last 3 years, we had to rejig our board and to represent us, to capture the essence of what we are doing. So it depends on who is talking to you, and are you an incorporated trustee? Are you limited by guarantee? I don't know how you operate. I don't know what your basis is. So when you come, we will have a better talk, and then we will take things forward, you know. I hope, but what I will also advise is that make sure you work on sound legal advice, you know, so that you don't run into conflict with the law. That's all.
Okay, sir, one last question. Now, this one is from me, sir. You've talked a lot about partnership with government over the years, and I know that for many NGOs, this is a difficult terrain. How do you navigate partnership with government because of the bureaucracies involved and all of these issues? How have you been able to do that, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, it depends on the content of the partnership. If it is the partnership of a new agenda, that's difficult. But if it is a partnership on an existing agenda, take for instance, imagine if we need to give school uniforms to school children in a primary school. If that is part of the UBEC law or SUBEB law, I say, this thing you say you wanted to do, what we are just trying to do is to help you accomplish it in this primary school by providing those uniforms. That's very good. How many peers per child? Who, you know, those things, once we are clear in what we want. If you want to set a new agenda, then that takes a longer time, like CSC. It took us like 20 years to set the agenda and implementation. And even at that is wobbly. But if it's an existing thing, you have a health center, I want to help you to retrofit it to deliver services. There is no bureaucracy now. I'm bringing the resources to do for you what you ought to do that you don't have a budget for. Or you can use the budget to address another health center, you know? And then again, you know, now I tell people, if I go to any office and you are there, you must be my junior. I will have retired 4 years ago. So if I come, I let you know that I'm not, you understand? Because there are many cards you will play as they go along. But it's how just to find the right entry and to connect with the right emotions and to be able to speak to your project in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So I'm going to be handing over to Mr. Francis, who will be taking the vote of thanks. Really appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olaide. Let me begin this appreciation by thanking God for providing us the enabling grace to be able to hold this webinar and to allow it to run very smoothly. We also want to thank in a very special way Dr. Eshiet for sharing with us this day, not just sharing about how they started and how they have progressed so far, but even sometimes having to share personal experiences. So we want to thank you so much for these insights that you have granted us through this exposition. Everyone is appreciated. Thank you so much. We hope to see you next month. Thanks. Over.